And from Ferguson to Palestine, occupation is a crime. From Ferguson to Palestine, occupation is a crime. From Ferguson to Palestine,
occupation is a crime.
From Ferguson to Palestine,
occupation is a crime.
From Ferguson to Palestine,
occupation is a crime.
From Ferguson to Palestine,
occupation is a crime.
We have to remember that. We have to remember that this is not a case of a few bad apples. How often do we hear a few bad apples? Minneapolis shows that's a lie. When an entire precinct sits and watches while their community members die at the hands or are wounded and shot at and assaulted by white supremacists. It shows it's a lie.
Protecting the Nazis!
That it's a few bad apples. When it takes 15 minutes to go 1 block from the police station, and when you get there, you mace the protesters and those giving aid to the wounded. They say it's only a few bad apples. Well, I say it's only a few bad apples, like the Nazis only had a few bad apples. It doesn't matter how nice they are. It doesn't matter if they attend their church and donate to the Salvation Army. When you participate in a structure of racism, a structure of oppression, a structure of violence, and even if you're the nicest one participating and you feel deep in your heart something's wrong, well, too bad. You're still guilty. You are guilty for participating. You are guilty for not turning in the police officers who abuse, who steal money, who steal drugs, who assault unarmed black and brown people. You are guilty in your silence. You are guilty when you do not call for the resignation of Braun Cruz. You are guilty when you do not call for the resignation of these murderous cops. You are guilty when you do not arrest them, when you do not turn them in. A few bad apples? No, it's a whole bad barrel.
Woo!
And if you're inside, you're just as bad as the rest of them. Where are we going to see in Salt Lake City or Utah a police officer that murders someone unarmed go to jail? When are we going to see them even fired? When are we going to see leadership from our elected officials that say, maybe I can't, like spineless Singill says, maybe I can't prosecute them because they were just following procedure? Where are officials going to change the procedure so that our spineless Attorney General can prosecute them? When are our spineless, toothless, so-called civilian review board? It's right there in the name, civilian review board. It's because they know that the police are a military and paramilitary force dedicated to our oppression. When is the civilian review board, made up of friends, family, and ex-cops, going to do the right thing and recommend, if not prosecution, at least that these murderers not be allowed to walk our streets with a badge, a gun, and a license to kill?
Woo!
So, they would never like to admit it, but there's a reason why Burbank was fired. The reason why Burbank was fired was not over a sexual harassment charge. Did that play a role? Perhaps. But really, it was because Becker was tired of being embarrassed locally, nationally, and us, the dedicated few who came out and said enough was enough. So spineless Becker, rather than standing up for what's right, made Burbank the fall guy. And now, where's Becker? He refused to stand. He refused to stand with the people of Salt Lake City. He refused to take a stand against police brutality. And where is he now? Now, I'm not saying that I'm super optimistic for somebody who worked in the sheriff's office to hold law enforcement accountable. And Jackie works for law enforcement. But this is the thing. Jackie, on record, said that the murder of Dylan Taylor and Darian Hunt were unjustified. So I'm challenging all of you. Hold Jackie to her word. When she becomes mayor, she becomes the top cop. She decides what happens in that police department. She has more power than even the police chief. And we have to say, Jackie, why does the one murderer of Dylan Taylor still have a job in your police department? Why will you allow that? So while there may be some optimism about her election, I would say the more important thing is that we keep fighting.
Keep fighting.
Woo!
Change does not come in the ballot box, it comes on the streets. Change does not come from politicians, it comes from the people. And that's the thing. We are standing with Minneapolis and we are standing with Chicago. But there are things you can do locally. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce one of the bravest women I know, who constantly throws herself into danger to record police crimes. This person, armed only with a cell phone, down at the homeless shelter, films the harassment, the abuse that the homeless people suffer at the hands of the police. And you may say, well, there's drugs down there. Well, there's drugs on the east side and in the frat houses, and I don't see the cops over there harassing people. And you may see, well, there's violence there. Well, there's domestic violence all over the city, and I don't see the cops doing anything to stop that. So this person, armed with a camera, is down there, throwing her body, her freedom, and her life on the line. And has, through recording the police harassment, has had numerous people released from handcuffs to be free another day. So please, give me a big round of applause for Cheryl from Copwatch.
Woo! Hell yeah!
We've been going down to Copwatch now, around the shelter, for about 3 or 4 months. We certainly like to have a lot more people come down with us. It's usually just myself and Damon. What goes on down there is inexcusable. These people are not treated like people. They are treated like scum. They are not given respect. They are looked down upon, and they're just part of the prison industrial complex. If you haven't had any interaction with the police will make sure that they have an interaction with them. Just the other day, we talked to a gentleman who told us they can no longer camp on that strip on 5th West anymore. There were 10 people out there. He was the only one that didn't have any interaction with the police. Well, by the end of the day, they made sure, out of those 10 people, he was the only one that was given a ticket for camping. Now, he's had interaction with the police. Now they know who he is, and now they can harass him, just like they do everyone else down there. We watch them. The drugs down there are bad, and we watch them. We know where the drugs are at. We're down there all the time. But that's not where they're at. They're over hassling people because they're jaywalking, because they might momentarily block the sidewalk, because they're just looking for a place to rest, and they're not allowed to. So I would encourage all of you that are interested to come down and join us and see what goes on down at the shelter. It is horrible how these people are treated. They're not given the respect that most people give their dogs. Like I said, it's an open invitation. Anytime anybody wants to come down.
Woo!
And I know we're all very busy people, but this really is important. You being down there, Cheryl and her brother Damon being down there, that's the difference between imprisonment and freedom. They have literally had the cops take handcuffs off people that they were going to drag to jail and give tickets to or arrest. That's the power that we have when we hold the police accountable. And that's what we're here for. Police accountability. This is what is so hypocritical about Minneapolis. When the cops say, well, you got what you wanted. No, what we want is for you to do the job that you say you're doing. You say you're protecting and serving. Instead, you're killing and jailing. And that's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. And then we see how much they protect and serve when they let white supremacists open fire on Black Lives Matter and then take 15 minutes to go 1 block. Something many of you don't know. The police have no obligation to protect and serve. This goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. In New York, a man was on the subway and a mentally ill person was traveling around New York, stabbing people. This guy was working, so he wasn't aware.